transit denizens might be the most universally disliked thing in the history of Call of Duty Zombies. If a player times themselves when entering the fog, it will only take them about 5 seconds to start getting attacked. It's actually insane. The elevators on Die Rise have always been a pain to players. Not only do you have to wait forever for them to get your perks, but you can also get killed by them if you don't get off quick enough. What could be worse than bad mystery box luck? Going in thinking a wonder weapon is going to show up, or at least just a solid gun, but nope, just a Type 25. Double Tap 1.0 might have been the most hated perk in Zombies history at a point in time. It was so bad that Treyarch literally had to replace it with Double Tap 2.0, the much better version that players know today. That was only a glimpse of the rest of this video. We still have to cover the worst perk ever, terrible wonder weapons, and storyline failures. So let's continue. Fire damage has never been a well-accepted mechanic in Zombies, especially on the Green Run maps. What can players say? It's just not fun to burn. Custom Zombies has been a staple in Black Ops 3 for years, but it's only available on PC. People have complained and wished it was brought to console, but Treyarch is yet to deliver. The transit fog has never been something that sat well with players, even though the only reason it was created was because older consoles couldn't handle the pure size of the map at the time, but that didn't stop players from despising it any less. The Chaos storyline was introduced in Black Ops 4 and was never really loved by most people. Not that the story itself was bad, people just wanted to see the iconic crew instead, which is understandable. Something that will probably never go away in Zombies is randomized part locations. Not many people are fans of it because they say it's just something else to memorize, but others will tell you they like it because it adds variety to the games. The Lightning Staff has always been the little brother to all the other staffs, just because it's the most tedious to build, but its charge shot stops killing zombies the earliest, making it essentially useless for high rounds. In the older Zombies games where it was a 2-hit down, one thing people hated was getting quickly 2-swiped on low rounds when trying to knife a zombie or just run by. BO4 received a lot of hate, but one major thing was that people thought the alternate ammo types didn't activate often enough. Compared to Black Ops 3, where they used to activate in what seems like every other kill, in BO4 you'd be lucky to get 2-ish activations per round. Speaking of BO4, the guns in the game felt way weaker than previous CODs. BO2 and BO3 guns felt fine, but then they changed the double pack-a-punch system in Black Ops 4, and people hated it. Luckily, this was fixed in Cold War Zombies though. One thing that wasn't fixed in Cold War Zombies was on Firebase Z. When you get past a certain round, there's pretty much no real zombies that spawn. It's just mimics. Players tend to not like when the boss zombies overwhelmingly spawn more than regulars. Since the addition of the Zombie Chronicles DLC, fans have been speculating the release of the sequel, Zombie Chronicles 2, but Treyarch or Activision has never confirmed it coming, which has left some fans just a little bit ticked. The Moon Easter egg has been one of players' least favorites, pretty much only because you need to get the wave gun, QEDs, and the Gersh devices, and sometimes that's more time consuming than the rest of the Easter egg. There's two knifing animations in Zombies. You have the swipe or the lunge. Everybody hates the lunge because getting pulled into the zombie puts players in danger of getting killed, especially on lower rounds when they don't have Jug. Dead of the Night was not one of the more accepted maps by fans. The main thing that people had problems with was the amount of parts there were to pick up. I was actually curious, so I went back and checked how many parts there were, and there's actually 17. That's quite a few. The jet gun might be one of the biggest what-ifs in COD Zombies, because it is literally so good, but when you use it too much, it just breaks. And people generally don't like when their wonder weapon breaks right when they're using it. When the jet gun breaks, it means they have to rebuild it. And maybe it wouldn't be so bad if in BO2 you could carry more than one buildable at a time. I haven't seen one person say that they like this mechanic. This one's more of a personal one, but when you're standing underneath the Verruckt pipes on BO3, it makes your screen blurry. Literally one of the most minor things, but it's always bugged me. Speaking of blurred vision, the Nova 6 crawlers have been atop players' list for most hated different type of zombie for years. It's mostly hated because when you walk through their gas, it makes it very tough to see where the other zombies are coming from. Being slowed has always been a hated topic in video games, but two things that slow you in Zombies are the Origins mud and the Shinonuma water. People say that you haven't lived life until you've had your zombies train wrecked because of stepping in a small patch of mud. Also, have you ever really played Nuketown Zombies if you've never had to wait till round 18 to get Jug? It's because the perks fall randomly, and it's one of the biggest gripes that people have with the map, and probably the main reason it's not liked as much as it could be. When the Witches and Buried hit players, they take away their points. This is a hated mechanic because when going through the Witch's house, players are probably going to Pack-a-Punch, and they need points for that. Unfortunately, all their points might be gone by the time they get there. Speaking of Pack-a-Punch, on Ascension, if the player is just relaxing and trying to unlock Pack, and they accidentally get crushed by one of the landers, it might just tick them off, just a little bit. Going back to BO4, Blaze Blaze Phase is one of the more questionable perks that's been added to zombies. The way it works is you crouch for a few seconds and then stand up, and it'll kill some zombies. It sounds pretty good on paper, but realistically, when do players have time to crouch for 3 seconds when trying to run away from a bunch of zombies? The fire in the middle of 9 is necessary to be there, not only for the Easter egg, but also so players can't just run around and abuse the best training spot in zombies history. The Voyage of Despair clock step is really tedious. Having to mess around with a bunch of clocks, especially on solo, makes players not even want to start the Easter egg in the first place. In Zetsubo no Shima, in order to turn on the power, players have to swim in this water. But on PC, sometimes it glitches out and players aren't able to move correctly around the water. This often leads to a down when it probably shouldn't have. Headshot only mode has always been something that I've personally never understood. I don't know why anyone would do it, other than to torch themselves or maybe just to make a YouTube video about it. Is there anything worse than pulling the SMR out of the mystery box? It might be the worst gun in zombies history. Like seriously, this gun just doesn't kill. But a slightly better scenario than getting the SMR is getting the ballistic knife, but only if it's before round 4. Anything after that, and the ballistic knife is mega hated. The Transit Pack-a-Punch location has always been a source of hate ever since it was released. Not so much of a big deal on co-op, but for solo, it's very common for players to open the Pack-a-Punch, run there, and then have it be closed when they arrive. The BO4 HUD has always felt cluttered. Comparing it to previous HUDs, there's definitely a lot going on, so maybe if they just removed the elixirs part and it only shows up when you want to use them, it would be better. Something else that BO4 failed to do was bring Juggernog into the game. Probably the most iconic and favorite perk of all Zombies fans was just taken out, and it took them a while to explain why. Luckily, in Cold War, they figured out the best way to have health and Jug in the same game. At least they learned from their mistakes. Gobblegums were one of the most loved features in BO3, but that didn't stop it from having some really bad gums. Burned Out, Respin Cycle, and Licensed Contractor are just a few of the most hated. The stop-motion cutscenes in Zombies will never truly fulfill the ending to a map. It was especially hated by fans when those types of cutscenes were what closed out the Ether story. The Shadows of Evil Easter egg taking 4 people to complete is one of the more disappointing things in Zombies history. And in general, 4-player Easter eggs were always disliked, especially by solo players, for obvious reasons. Who's Who has got to be one of the worst perks in Zombies history. The way it works is if you go down, you can revive yourself. It actually sounds pretty good on paper, but what they don't tell you is that if you die while in that resurrection mode, the game is literally over. Nobody likes getting crushed by the Origin's foot. Whether the shot was missed or the foot was wrong, it's still equally frustrating. Previous COD Zombies games didn't have unlimited sprint, and it makes them feel slow and sluggish. Well, at least that's when comparing them to present-day Zombies games. In this video, I go through the 10 stages that every Zombies player will go through. Go check it out, and have a nice day.